Today, I am going to cover the book of Job. So I'm going to read the first part of the first two chapters. They're very short, and then this should probably be maybe a 15-minute video. So, book of Job says there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. That man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and turned away from evil. And there were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters, so he has 10 children. His substance was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household. So this man was the greatest of all the children of the east. This and his sons went and held a feast in the house, every one upon his day. They sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that their sons had sinned and renounced God in their hearts. So thus Job did continually. Now it came to pass on the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Jehovah, that Satan also came among them. Jehovah said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? And Satan answered Jehovah and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Jehovah said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? For there is none like him in all the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears God and turns away from evil. Then Satan answered Jehovah and said, Does Job fear God for nothing? For naught. Hast thou not made a hedge around about him, and his house, and all that he hath? On every side thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and the substance increased in the land. But put forth thy hand now, and touch all that he has, and he will renounce thee to thy face. And Jehovah said unto Satan, Behold, all that he has is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of Jehovah. And it fell on a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, that there came a messenger unto Job, and the oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them, and took them away. And they have slain thy servants with the edge of the sword. I am only escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God has fallen from heaven, and has burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and only I am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The Chaldeans made thee 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have taken them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped to tell thee. And while he was yet speaking, there came another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in thine eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So it says, Then arose Job, rent his clothes, shaved his head, fell upon the ground, and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return thither. Jehovah gave, Jehovah hath taken away, blessed be the name of Jehovah. In all this sin not, nor charge Job sin not, nor charge God foolishly. So now it came to pass on the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Jehovah, that Satan came also among them to present himself before Jehovah. And Jehovah said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered Jehovah and said, From going forth to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Jehovah said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? For there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God, turneth away from evil, and is still hold fast his integrity. That's this last part of the sentence. Although thou movest me against him, to destroy him without cause. Satan apparently has the power to get God to move against his own people without cause. Think about that. Satan answered Jehovah and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thy hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will renounce thee to thy face. Jehovah said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thy hand, only spare his life. So Satan went forth from the presence of Jehovah, smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet to his crown. And his wife told him he should just renounce God and die. He rebukes her, and then he gets into his three friends. He's got three friends and then another one that comes. So that basically sets up the whole story for the book of Job. It was a very quick read. Everything else, it's a lot of dialogue. So you can take some things from this, and it seems like when you point this stuff out, everybody thinks you're Antichrist, you're atheist, you're not a Christian, blah blah blah. It's in the book. It's in the book. Like, how can you take it any other way? And so I just want to sum this up, kind of summarize. It starts out, God makes a bet with the devil. Now, somebody please tell me how that was not a bet with the devil. God brags about Job. The devil says, yeah, but he only does that because you're taking care of your guy. So God brags. Satan says, no, you take away his stuff, he won't praise you. God says, oh yeah? Satan says, yeah. And Satan's like, well, prove it. So, and they go along. That is a bet. So God makes a bet with the devil. Job loses his possessions. Job loses 10 children, all of his children. These people are old enough to be drinking and having houses, so these are adults. Job loses his servants. He loses all of his animals. Like, Job loses everything. And then Job loses his health. Now, when I say the word loses, you think, well, they just lost that. No. Satan persuaded God to move against Job. So in God's words, it says that God's the one that moved against Job. And so he lost his children, he lost his servants, he lost his possessions, he lost his animals. And then he has three friends that come along, and there's like verse, chapter after chapter about the dialogue. But basically he has three friends that rebuke him. And the thing is they rebuke him, admonish him, chasten, whatever. They're only speaking the word of God. They did not say anything that the law doesn't say. They said exactly what the blessings and cursings are. Like, hey, we know from our fathers that, if you do bad things happen to you. And if you do good things, God will bless you. That was a promise from God. It was. So they're just taking logic and the word of God, and they're applying it and saying, Job, there's got to be something wrong in your life. So you get through all this dialogue, God finally shows up, and actually before that, the youngest of them, there's a fourth one, I believe, and the fourth one, the youngest one, basically defends God and says, well, who are you guys to be speaking against God? And, who are you? And God can do whatever he wants. Kind of sounds like the modern Christian today. Well, yeah, it says all that stuff, but God can do whatever he wants. Apparently. So his youngest friend is praised for standing up for God's rational behavior. And then here's the thing, like the three friends, they didn't say anything wrong. The very first time I read the book of Job was like 3 months after I was a Christian and a converted believer. And I remember reading that, like, what did they do wrong? I never could understand, what did they do wrong? Job has to pray for them that they can be forgiven. For what? They didn't do anything wrong. And so Job has to pray for his three wise men giving godly advice. Go figure. So in the end of this, Job is given more wealth. He's given more children, and the women are absolutely just beautiful. So it says that. And so you can you can just derive from that when God really blesses you, you have beautiful women, beautiful daughters, and when God doesn't bless you, you have ugly daughters. You can say, how could you get that? Why is it noted that they're more beautiful? Like somehow that makes up for the other ones being killed? So the other thing you gather from this is that if you read Ecclesiastes, you will find that Solomon comes to conclusions that are anti-law. They're anti-blessing and cursings. Already in Ecclesiastes, they're finding out from experience that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. The law says that the blessing is that, if you do well, you get rain. If you don't do well, rain will be withheld. So we already find in Ecclesiastes that's not true. We find in the book of Job that being a good person doesn't keep you from harm. Like it says, Job was the most righteous man on the planet, and it didn't matter. God still kicked his ass just to show that God was great. And so you have that. So the blessings and curses of the law are invalid. They're already invalid in Ecclesiastes. They're definitely invalid in the book of Job. The suffering you may be encountering could be for a bet. It could be God's just making you suffer so you appreciate heaven. He could just be having a bad day. Some of this might seem sacrilegious, or how could you say this? It's all open for discussion. I mean, it's clearly recorded. God made a bet with the devil and then screwed with Job being, it was very unjust. But you can't say it's unjust because it's God. God can do whatever he wants, so we have to just suck it up. But from a human standpoint, it's not cool. Another thing you can take away from this is teaching or admonishing somebody using sound biblical principles that are approved by God may get you punished and require somebody else to ask for forgiveness for you through prayer. True story. Something to consider also is the book of Job is focused on Job. Well, God getting praised basically, but the man focuses on Job. And I hear people talk about Job all the time, but they don't talk about the suffering of the servants or the murder of his children. Clearly God is willing to destroy people and just wreck people's lives to make another guy look good or make himself look good. He is willing to kill your children. Don't say no. He did it here. To make himself look good, he was willing to kill a man's children to win a bet. So your children are open. It's a free-for-all. God could destroy your children just to test you. Don't tell me he can't. He did here. It's on historical record. We know that God is willing to destroy 10 children to test a guy. Can't say he will never do it again. Doesn't say that. It ain't no rainbow. So something to consider is the focus is on Job and the effects on him without considering the children, the servants, and the animals. You could just be fodder. You could just be part of the big plan. And does this make me Antichrist or atheist for pointing this out? All you have to do to be labeled this anymore or non-Christian, is just to actually read the Bible, and then as is written, and then just speak it out loud, or step back and think about it. So why I made this video is, how do you respond when bad things happen to you? Do you stress out? I've actually seen people on the verge of a mental breakdown because they couldn't figure out if they were in God's will or not. Or they had cancer, they had something wrong with them, or they got in a bad car accident, and they stress out trying to figure out, why did this happen to me? And that's the whole point of this video, is if God is real, if there is a God, and Jehovah is God, then from a man's standpoint, he suffers temper tantrums, he makes bets, he kills people, just their collateral damage, just to make a point in some other man's life or to make himself look good. So if you choose to believe the Bible and to believe God, that he exists, when bad things happen in your life, focus on what you can do better, but don't stress out about it, because it literally could be, shit happens.